Welcome back to Liberty Nation TV, where we discuss all the latest in the fast food news. Internationally, we have Mark Angelides from across the pond, our managing editor from the UK, joining us today. Hello, Mark.
Hi, Scott. I should mention that despite delivering all the news that's new and approved on fast food, I am not a partaker of fast food.
Well, we'll get into your communism in a second, lest you be described as some kind of vegan that people not listen to. In the United States, of course, people need no introduction to Chick-fil-A, even if they don't have it near them, because of the family who runs it, the Cathay family, and their support for traditional notions of marriage, especially. Now, the Chick-fil-A's expansion into the UK just started, and we have some big news about that. So what's happening with Chick-fil-A's expansion into the UK market? Have you been able to secure yourself a spicy chicken deluxe sandwich on the other side of the pond yet?
I have not been able to secure myself I've already forgotten what you said, a spicy chicken deluxe
sandwich. That's my order. That's my Chick-fil-A. You know, a little bit of personal details disclosed here. That I recommend that as a way to go forward with a Chick-fil-A order.
Well,
with solid foundation.
Would that I could follow your recommendation, Scott, but after opening their first store here in the UK in October, they have been informed that they will no longer be able to operate out of the premises for much longer due to, let's call them protests by certain LGBTQ community groups who are objecting to their stances on traditional values. So they've been informed that they have the 6-month contract that they have. That will be the last contract they have in that location. So they can certainly open up in other locations, but their first store there is about to go.
Protest against the restaurants.
You mentioned the LGBTQ. Is that who's behind the
extend the 6-month lease?
The protest
yes.
shutdowns?
The restaurant was banned.
Yeah, specifically it's a group called Reading. The place is in Reading. And it's a group called Reading Pride, which are obviously they're a company, they're a registered charity, and it's an activist group, which presumably is their main goal is to promote openness, tolerance, acceptance, and such things. And they've got to
not
be
the consumption of fresh, never frozen, high quality chicken delivered quickly and at a reasonable price. It sounds like, Mark.
Yes, apparently the tolerance doesn't expand quite that far, nor to allowing people to have jobs, which is the crux result here, is that the people who have recently been employed, presumably it's at least a skeleton crew of 14, will now be looking for further employment elsewhere.
You know, one little detail about Chick-fil-A that you may not know about, and certainly people who don't visit the restaurant might not know about, but they are amongst the happiest employees in terms of good cheer and seem to be enjoying their jobs than any other of the fast food franchises by a long shot. And it's something that came out when there was the initial urge to boycott Chick-fil-A on behalf of the LGBTQIA+ activists in the United States, where there are many members of the Chick-fil-A team, if you will, employees of Chick-fil-A who are lesbian, gay, bisexual, trans, whatever, who say, you know, we're not discriminated against at work, which, by the way, would often be illegal depending on where it was done and how. This is just the private political affiliations of the owners. It has nothing to do with how they treat, you know, whether it's guests to the restaurant or people that work there.
Yeah, I believe there's about 145,000 employees worldwide for Chick-fil-A, and it's quite a shame that regular folk, you know, folk with families, folk who are just trying to get by, perhaps pay off some college debts, perhaps just trying to
enjoy
eat
enjoy a tasty chicken sandwich.
Well, I was considering more the workers than anything else, right. But you know, their livelihood is under threat.
You've mentioned this Reading Pride group for the UK's march. What can you tell us about this group? What's behind them?
Yeah, so Reading Pride appear to be quite a normal gay pride activist group. They work on some educational things, trying to make people understand, you know, what the different affiliations are, this kind of stuff. But here's the thing, Scott, and without being too conspiratorial here, you have
going down the rabbit hole, Mark.
I am about to go down the rabbit hole,
For
Scott,
people who
yeah.
don't know, that is, and this is a bit of a tangent, but we'll mention that you are the host of The Rabbit Hole, Politics and Prose, a podcast by LibertyNation.com, where people can access it on LibertyNation.com's website or wherever finer podcasts are aggregated. So with that diversion, please.
Thanks for the plug. Yes, so you've got a group of apparently well-meaning people who are pretty much just standing up for what they believe in. Perhaps in a slightly more politically active way than many of us are used to. But what they're doing is they're protesting a company, let's call it an organization, for the people who fund it. The people at the top. They're the big guys at the top, the family at the top. Yet they fail to look into the people who actually fund them with the same scrutiny, or at least with the same moral mirror, let's say. It took about, I must say, I did a lot of research on this. It took me about 5 minutes to find out that they've had festivals, etc., sponsored by Bayer, which I'm sure many of you know is a very big pharmaceutical chemical company.
They were the Nazi collaborators, right, Bayer?
They were the Nazi collaborators. Yes, they're the ones who built their base fortune off using.
I've enjoyed their aspirin products in the past. Full disclosure, Mark.
Yes, yes, they were essentially slaves which were herded by Nazis, which is how they got their start out. Then, of course, after the war, they were broken up. Well, they joined up, and then they were broken up into other groupings.
Well, wait a second. You're not saying that the owners of the Chick-fil-A company, because they differ with respect to what they think the Equal Protection Clause of the Constitution provides in the way of lesbian and gay formalization of their relationships legally, that's somehow morally equivalent to treating humans like slaves. That's not half as bad as that,
saying
right?
That one is far worse than the other.
Wait, you're saying that the Bayer example is worse than Chick-fil-A?
Perhaps, but let's not dwell on the past with Bayer. Let's not dwell on the past. Let's bring it forward a few years. Let's go to 1983 when they knowingly sold tainted plasma, tainted with AIDS, by the way, to what at the time were happily described as third world countries in order to expand their profits. Well, the profit motive mainly being the one behind it.
But that didn't upset any people on Twitter. Twitter didn't even exist then, Mark. I think you're missing the point here. Twitter exists now.
So that was, but let's not dwell on 1983. Let's pull that forward a few years. How about 2018, when they purchased Monsanto, which, according to many sources, own a product that, or distribute a product that has been linked to many forms of cancer.
You're not talking about the glyphosate that we find in all of our foods now because of Monsanto's policies, are you?
I couldn't possibly comment, but is it included in Chick-fil-A, I wonder?
Well, I think I think that's a good point for us to stop, Mark, and encourage some field testing. Obviously, for you, that's going to be a bit of a struggle with the one and only closing restaurant in the UK. But fortunately, in these good old US of A, we still have Chick-fil-A in some places to choose from. I'll get started on that and let you know.
Thank you, Scott. Enjoy.
Cheers, Mark. Thank you for joining us. Mark Angelini's managing editor of LibertyNation.com, and you can read his fine works and listen to his fine podcast, accessible both on LibertyNation.com, your home for conservatarian news and analysis 24/7. Please go ahead and like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks for joining us.